And then I got stuck with $85,000 credit card debt. I filed 3 federal lawsuits. The judge threw it out. But then when I checked my credit report, they were off the credit report, and I got no 1099-C. So then I set up a charity. I was helping people, about 1,000 people, eliminate their credit card debt. And then took a break, and I'm here in the Philippines.
Hey there, tech enthusiasts. Welcome to Tech Time with Sweet Tea, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of technology and how it can either serve you or, well, not serve you. Here is your host, Sweet Tea, and he's on a mission to help you harness the power of tech in your life. Join him as he chats with people about their tech journeys. From the latest gadgets to digital dilemmas, we'll explore it all. So grab your favorite device, hit that play button, and let's keep it real in the world of tech. Tech Time with Sweet Tea is here to help you stay plugged in and empowered. Let's get started.
Thank you for coming on, having a conversation with me about talking to content creators and people who've gone into debt. And you say you have a book and everything. We'll get into the book here in a minute and a little bit later. But let's first talk about like what you do, and then leading up to you learning about this knowledge of the debt and everything. What do you do?
Well, I'm retired, and so I'm here in the Philippines. And what I'm here for is teach farmers how to build dome houses out of bamboo. Also do vertical gardening, and I'm going to be setting up free medical clinics for the people here. And I had that back years ago when I was in California. So
and let's get right to it. Thank you for joining me today here on Keeping It Real Storytime with Sweet Tea. We connected on podmatch.com and getting to the thing about that word you told me a lot about in the pre-interview. We were just having a little pre-interview. Told me a lot about. I kind of don't know where to start. Where's the best way to start here?
I'll tell you what happened. I had written a book, and it was on health and healing. And then about the year 2004, I was given a infomercial contract, and I had to be on radio shows to test different directions the company wanted to see what would be the best kind of sales strategy. And so I lived on my 3 credit cards for about 6 months. And then one of the talents got in trouble with the FCC about false medical claims of his weight loss book. And he took the company basically under, and we lost our contracts. And I was expecting to make they're telling me to make about $100,000 a month. So when I saw that I had $85,000 of credit card debt, it put me in a tailspin and kind of depressed for about a month. And then I woke up one morning. I remember my dad being a CPA. I had been in school to be a CPA. And I just thought that, wait a second, the bank doesn't have an invoice. Now, there are true credit cards. We can talk about that. But the banks didn't have a credit card. So, and then they're going to say, well, we loaned you money. And then I know from reading the Modern Money Mechanics, which was the Federal Reserve manual that we read in our banking class, it says right there on page 6 that what banks do is they accept a promissory note, and then basically they write numbers into your checking account. And so then, having a little bit of law background, my wife of 28 years her dad was an attorney and a judge. So we had talked about the fraudulent things you can't do, and then come into court and enforce laws if you're doing something fraudulent. So I filed 3 federal lawsuits, and I had seen somebody, I think on YouTube early, about how easy it was, simple it was, and how the federal judges are very accommodating to pro se people. So I had this lie that I believed. So I filed 3 federal lawsuits in Los Angeles, and then the judge called me in, and he raked me over the coals. He made me look like a fool and like an idiot. And he would never let me start at the beginning. He said, "Oh yeah, we'll get to that. Do you have a credit card?" "Well, no." "You don't have a credit card? Pull that card out. What's it say on the credit card?" "So you're an idiot." So I can see why the attorneys I had hired to represent I had a charity, so we helped people with their debt. So some wanted to file lawsuits because they had so much debt that they thought it would be the best way to go, and they weren't going to represent themselves. So I hired attorneys for them. And then when we went to court, I just realized this. That was why they were resisting me and not going forward with it, even though I had a CPA expert witness. So then I lost the case. The judge threw out all three of them and said I was a crazy person and get out of here. But then a month later, I looked at my credit report and all three alleged credit card debt was gone. I never received a 1099-C. What that is when a bank loans you, let's say, $100,000 and you don't pay them back a penny. They notify the IRS that you just earned $100,000 and they get to take a $100,000 reduction off their taxes. So in my pleading, I explained everything what was going on. So the judge knew, I knew that the scam was going on. And so he represents the banks basically, and he was not going to allow this thing to go forward and to become court public record that I was successful. So, and then the bank couldn't trust that I wasn't going to appeal, and I might get an appeal favorable, and I could keep going because I was pushing for a deposition. And that's exactly what they don't want, is to have someone in the bank come into a deposition, swearing us on the Bible and say, this is true and you have a debt. And I asked them, where's the invoice? They don't have one. Where's a certified copy of the promissory note? They don't have one. And we have no contractual agreement because you're in fraud. So I was successful. So I'm a doubting Thomas. So I don't expect you to believe it. I don't expect your audience to believe what I have to say. I have send you links and you look it up yourself. And my three arguments is: one, the bank never provided goods and services, so they never have an invoice. An invoice is what an accountant looks for as a bill that has a date, the product or the service, has taxes or shipping, whatever. It clearly states exactly what you owe. And then the second argument is there's no promissory note, so there never was a loan. And third is fraud undoes all contracts. So you can nuke your credit card debt.
So yeah, thanks for that, like that, like detail start. I don't know if that's you got into like the beginning, but like I just didn't know where to start with all this. And thanks for all that. By the way, like doubting Thomas, you came to me as Tommy, and that's what I go by as well, Tommy. So we're same name here. I've never heard that doubting Thomas before.
As I got to put the hand up there, doubting Thomas. So we doubt that Jesus actually died. So we get a bad rap, and I've had chaplains tell me that when I do the stigma on my hand, stigmata, and so they said he gets a bad rap because once he put his hand into the wound, he believed. So yeah, so it's just distrust for everything. So I encourage your audience to send this podcast to your CPA. She or he will have never heard of this argument before. It's totally out of their realm of even thinking. But they're going to have to agree that one, the bank never provided any goods or services, so they have no invoice. And because you never signed a promissory note, there never was a loan. Now, the legal part, that's the attorney can write a letter saying the bank has no contract because you committed fraud.
So, and then comfortable with saying like how much did you like in debt were you, and you removed it all and everything,
Right.
like you were able to remove it all under this.
I lost. I lost the federal court case, but then 30 days later, I looked at the credit report and they had updated it and removed all three. Now, if you want to hear a funny one, I was off grid for about 10 years and I was on farms. I never had any credit, and my credit score was about 9 months ago was zero. I had no history. So I contacted Capital One and they gave me a $500 credit card. And they're one of the banks I sued for 35,000. So how could I, with no credit score and no credit report, get a card? It's because I still was in their system as a good client, I guess. So it was very hilarious that when I got approved for a $500 credit card. So, and when you say there's a debt, and you say debt, you owe it. So when you go into court, you say, I owe the money, I got a credit card debt, you've got a debt, you can't get out of it. Now, law is language and language is law. So when we see a bank robber on the news, they always say alleged bank robber because they can't say yes because they haven't been convicted yet. So if you change it to say alleged credit card debt, now you're putting a burden on the bank to come forward and prove that there's a debt. Okay. So there is true credit cards. I'm not saying you can get out of all your credit cards. What this is let me just explain to you. If you have, let's say you need tires for your car, you go to a tire store, but it's going to cost $1,000 and you don't have $1,000. And they say, well, why don't you apply for the in-store credit card and see if you get approved? Hey, lo and behold, you're approved. They're thrilled. They put tires on your car. You drive out. You didn't pay it. But what they have is an invoice. They have an outstanding, unpaid invoice. You get a statement at the end of the month saying pay it. And if you don't pay it, they can sue you. And you don't have an argument. You cannot say, Judge, it's some scam they're doing, like Tommy said. No, this does not work. You owe the money. You have to pay them. Now, how do you know that the Walmart or the Amazon is not a true credit card? All you can do is look at the back. The back of the credit card is going to say issued by Bank of America, Citibank, Wells Fargo, or it could be in another country, Deutsche Bank. This works all around the world. So if it's issued by a bank, then it's a phony card and you don't owe the money because there never was a loan.
So can I?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Were you finishing a point there? Something came up with that last thing about a bill and proof, about them providing proof.
Right. So what banks do, well, before we move on.
Well, because I was gonna say it's like when you go to a store buying tires, you have a receipt or an invoice.
Mm-hmm.
So would you say like a bank statement or a credit card statement would be an invoice? What would you say to that?
Right. So yeah, any accountant will tell their new hire, their accounts payable, you never pay from a statement because a statement is on a certain date. And that's what they're saying. It's a statement, it's a spoken thing written down on paper. You owe this money. But what if you had already mailed the checks and it crossed in the mail? And so you would be getting a false statement because it's not that you owe that because there have already been payments made. So you only pay from approved invoices. And so once the who's ever in the department approves that invoice, then it's set to be paid. So that's what you do. You have to pay those when they come in. Now, I can explain a little bit more about what you're kind of getting to is that the banks only deal with loans. Okay. So when you go into a bank with no money, you want to come out with money unless you have a gun. So I'm not talking about that. So if you want money for a loan, they're going to ask you to apply. Now I got a question for you. If you apply for a bank loan and you're denied, do you still get the card? Obviously, no. You don't get the card, you're denied. Now, if you are approved, then you got to go into the bank and you fill out loan documents. You have to prove that you can pay this back by having some kind of proof of income. You also have to have collateral, like the house or the car. In case you don't pay, they're going to take that back. That motivates you to keep the payments going. The fourth thing, you need a credit report so they can show the history. And your credit score determines the interest rates. And the last thing is you have to sign a promissory note. And that is from the banking rules and regulations. So the banks before this could only loan out what they had. Okay. And if you look at inflation since 1776, it was flat, a little bit higher during wars, and then dripped back down. It was flat. Only when the Federal Reserve took complete control of the banking system in 33, which I think they created the Depression to make all these other banks that were not part of the Federal Reserve to go out of business. So from that, it's been straight up inflation. And what they do is they accept your promissory note, you promise to pay them, and then they write numbers in a checking account, and all of a sudden you've got money. And that increase of money versus the goods and services is called inflation. So what you can do is how to nuke your bank issued alleged credit card debt is all you have to do is write a letter to the bank, ask them to close your free checking account associated with that card.
Yes, thanks for shining or bringing this to the light. A lot of information. Go. I'm not
Well,
suggesting
let
like
me
take
stop
it
you right there.
for.
I didn't get a chance to answer your question. So
Okay.
writing a letter, what checking account? Well, you see, banks try to get you as a customer. And long ago, years ago, they offered you a toaster or a wall clock. And years ago, I saw an ad in the paper and it said, come into our bank, deposit $25. In 90 days, we will match it. And so I did. On day 91, I went into the bank, withdrew $50 and closed the account. I got a question for you. Did I rip off the bank? Did I steal from the bank? Is that immoral that I closed the account and took my money? Well, it was their offer. So in my fourth link to you is a guy on YouTube that says, do just that. I have been doing this and I made $361. So he finds banks that are promoting this plan that you deposit money, wait, and then he says, wait until the time period and then take the money out and close the account. I'm saying that's exactly the same thing happened when you got a $500 credit card. That's actually technically a gift card. They're trying to get you to be a customer. So what did you do with your $500 gift card? Let's say you went to Home Depot or some store and you bought a toilet, let's say a golden throne. And so you're about to walk out and the guard at the door says, wait a second, did you pay for that? And you have a receipt. So here I have a question. Are you going to get a statement from that store saying you owe us $500? No, they were paid that night or the next day. How do they get paid? It's from the advertising budget. The bank has money to get you as a customer. It's called advertising, and it costs money like they do with a wall clock or a toaster. We're giving you free money if you stick around. So you got a statement. Now, when you get a statement from a checking account, is that a bill? No, it's not a bill. It shows what you started with, your checks, your deposits, and what your ending balance. And you check and make sure that's all correct. And you balance your checkbook and you're fine.
Yeah, there's a
Same
starting but no real end. It just
and
keeps
that's the
going.
same thing with your alleged bank issued credit card is that statement is not a bill, but they make you think it's a bill. So what do? You're a good person, you're an honest person, you don't know what's going on, so you write a $500 check out and mail it to the bank. That is the first time the bank ever counted your money. And that is technically considered a loan. It went into your free checking account. Every purchase subsequent has been with your own money. So you get a statement at the end of the month, you think you've got to fill it back up to 500. And if you don't, they're going to charge you interest, late fees, all these kind of things. But it's a free checking account. So on average, these banks make $23.04. So if a bank has 1 million cardholders, they're bringing in $23 million a month. I've calculated it out, about 1/4 of all their profits come from this scam they're pulling on the American public and around the world too. So how you deal with this is you write a letter, and that would be the weakest way to do this. And some of my people I know that don't have very much, they send it in, and it's just too much waste of legal activity on the bank's part. So they just do a click and it's off your credit report. Now, for other people with subsequent bank issued alleged credit card debt, then what my suggestion is to have your CPA write a letter that says, one, the bank never provided goods and services. They do not have an invoice. There is no outstanding invoice. There is no debt. Then you claim there's a loan. There is no loan because there is no promissory note. And your attorney will come in and say, case law, Supreme Court has ruled over and over again that fraud undoes all contracts. My client does not have a contract with you, bank. All they have is a checking account, a free checking account, and they wish to close the account. And so that's what if you want to go further, I have the court documents I used. And so it has the deposition request, it has the production documents, the interrogatories, the admissions, and the most important thing is the injunction. So if you were to file this lawsuit, the bank is making a claim that you owe them money. When you sue them, you can notify them that they have the judge that there's an injunction to stop them from coming after you because you're claiming it's fraudulent. That puts the burden on the bank to come to court with a invoice, a copy of the promissory note, a person that's an employee of the bank who's going to swear that you have an invoice or you have some promissory note or some evidence of a debt. And that's what you do. And in 30 days, if the bank doesn't do that, they're actually held in contempt. So you put all this material together, it could be 40, 50 pages. You send it to the agent, the registered agent, and that's the one who accepts lawsuits. Even though you haven't technically filed it with the court, it looks like it. Because what you want is that bank lawyer to look at looking at 40, 50 hours at $500 or looking at $25,000 they're going to spend. And if they go through this, they could lose. It becomes public record that everybody could do it. So most likely they're going to go to the attorney and say, what's going on? And all the attorney's going to say, click and make it go away and we won't file it. So it's not in a sense of blackmail or coercion. It's just showing the bank that you know they're pulling a scam and they do not want this publicized. So it is very effective. So I'm looking for maybe a company that has $500,000 of bank issued alleged credit card debt, and they're going to go under. All 10 of their board members have maxed out their cards. They're trying to keep the company afloat. So if we could eliminate $1 million of alleged credit card debt, they'd be quite happy. So I offer a free consultation. If you contact me with that consultation, I'll give you my free book. It's called Forgive and Forget, How to Nuke Your Credit Card Debt, and it's on Amazon. But I'll send it to you for free because I want you to be out of debt. So it's a quick story.
Yeah, thank you. And don't take anything without like doing your own research. Like, no means like a financial advisor or anything. So like, do your own research, and but it's also, you said there's 4 links. I got your book link and everything, which I'm going to share here, like at the end and everything. But like, what did you send those 4 links to me already, or can you?
I will. Yeah,
You can
I
pop
can do
them in
that
the
very easily.
chat, the live chat
Oh,
here.
yes. So I can do that.
I don't know if you can. I don't know if guests can actually pop in the chat, but you can send them and look. There's a private chat, and we can pop them in too. Either way.
Yeah, I can do that really easily right here.
So we are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube right now. Yeah, do your own research, but it's like interesting stuff on what's talking statements, and that it's not an actual, it's a alleged debt or something. It's not an actual
See,
statement, or no, it's
right.
not an actual invoice. I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
really important to differentiate between a true credit card, and there are true credit cards, and you owe the money to those companies, those businesses that have an outstanding unpaid invoice that you owe. Everything else has been a scam. So all you do is ask for an invoice. They don't have one. That means there is no debt. You ask them for a certified copy of the promissory note. They don't have one. There never could have been a loan. And then you have an attorney, and that can be very simply done. There's a company like Legal Shield. For $29, you get a 1 month use of an attorney, and you can have the attorney write a letter saying, here is a case law, and there is no contractual agreement between you and the bank because they accuse you of doing fraud.
Yeah, as you're talking, I'm popping these in the chat here, so there be in the comments. And then there's the third one, and then the fourth one is your book and DIY debt relief.
Mhm.
I got 2 links.
Oh, okay. I see that it only took so many. So let me, the bank will, and I have some more links for you. So I can see that it only took so many characters. So we're at, and the bank will.
It's best I can put in chat like one at a time. I've found with this chat.
Oh,
It,
okay.
it didn't take any returns or.
Okay. I think,
So as you're doing that, like what you say you're retired now, what before you retired, what is it that got you excited to get up every morning?
well, first of all, I teach farmers here how to build a dome house out of bamboo.
Oh, is that
So
what you did before like retirement, like building and teaching?
yes, I was involved in education. I'm a writer. I'm an author. I've got books I'm coming out with. The most recent one is How to Speak Hiligaynon in 30 Days, which I did. And so it's a revolutionary way to learn a new language. And then I'll have the words change over to Visaya, and then the third one will be Tagalog. So I'll have the 3 major languages of the Philippines, and then from there I'll be doing for all 50 languages. So anyone can speak, read, write, and hear a foreign language in 30 days. It's a very different way of looking at it and how you're motivated because it works. I walk down the street, they all say, "Hi, sir." And now I'm able to speak to them and they go, "You know Hiligaynon?" And they're very pleased. Now they might say something back to me. I have no clue what they're saying to me. Okay. Because I'm not fluent. I just learned it. I've got 275 words, but they're important words. They're phrases. There's questions. So I ask them, "How are you?" And they go, "Okay." And then they'll say something that I have no idea. Then I'll come back with, "Okay, Rod. Okay, Gid, Maunman." So I already know typical responses to my questions or to my statements I make to people. And then I ask them, what are they doing if they're standing there? And they'll say tin dog, which means tin dog. It's funny to me. So I remember that standing as tin dog. My name is Tom. So Gutom means I'm hungry. Etom means black. So it's easy to remember some silly words that have your name in it. And so I'm really excited about that. And then I teach farmers how to do vertical gardening. They're still bending over, doing gardening and crops, bending over like they did 10,000 years ago. So there's much more effective techniques of hydroponics to bring the food up off the ground. And then medical clinics is very sorely needed here. And so we're going to be helping foreigners get well, and then they get to pay in dollars and Deutschmarks and euros and yen. And then we convert those to pesos. And now we have a lot more money to take care of the Filipinos here for free. But there is no free lunch. They got to bring an egg or a chicken or sweep the street for us. You got to do something in exchange for it. But it's just something that you got to do to get the free medical clinic. So that's what excites me. It gets me out of the bed every day.
Yeah, that's cool, and thanks for joining us in the live chat there, creating change. Thanks to a lot of my friends in the YouTube community over here. If you have any questions over anything what you heard, just feel free to pop in the chat. And the keeps talking about. We opened up this whole episode this morning today with a lot of a flood of information on debt relief and how it's like do your own research kind of stuff too, and it's interesting stuff. And thanks for like sharing this. And just going back over a little bit, like it'll be up on the podcast for you to listen to. We're gonna have some links to help you along with the research as well on this. And don't take everything with a grain of salt. It's just and and a few more 4 more things. Like we're going for about 30 minutes here, and you
We can talk about
talk about building dome houses, like right where you're currently at in the Philippines. It's after 9 there now, 9 p.m.
Almost 10. Yeah, we
GMT
are
plus 8.
12. Yeah, we're 12 hours ahead of East Coast daylight savings time. So yeah, no. I had read the obituary of Buckminster Fuller back in 1983, and I never heard of the
Mm-hmm.
guy before. And
Ooh.
from that obituary article, I read every book for this guy, and he's the guy behind a geodesic dome. So I think in geometry. I build tetrahedrons,
Mm-hmm.
octahedron, icosahedrons. I'm showing kids how sticks are put together, and all of a sudden we make a tetrahedron, a hexahedron, octahedron, icosahedron, and they see how the geometry all puts together. So I came across a company called Zip Tie Domes, and they have a very unique way of building their dome. So when you start, one person can build a 25-foot dome by themselves in about 4 hours. But you have to have all the pieces cut and drilled and ready to go. So I'm teaching the farmers how they could be a kit salesperson. And so they can cut the bamboo to certain whatever size the customer wants and send them with zip ties. And it comes to the site, and all they do is lay it out according to the video or the owner's manual. And they use zip ties, and it stays up as you build it, and it keeps going up as you keep building it. And you need a ladder to do the top part, but it doesn't collapse on you as you're building it. And I do a workshop here in about 10 days on another island next door. And he teaches people how to build mud houses. So they have the clay on their property, but you got to sift out different kinds of clay because you just can't use clay. It'll crack and house will fall apart. But you add in some of the coconut stratization, the material from the coconut and other leaves and things. And you have to put in some things because the termites live in the clay. So you put in some boric acid and it kills the any kind of bug wanting to come in to eat your house. And so that could be the base of the foundation. And the problem with a dome house is when you come in on the edges, they're all leaning inward. So my idea is to build a mud house in a square shape, and then you have a dome on top like a mushroom. Or you make it like a rectangle house, and then you put a tunnel dome on top. So it's more having it logically done because of refrigerators, all your cabinets, all your sofas, they're all 90 degrees. And that's the problem when you go into a house that's angled like this. So have your house 90 degrees with a second story be the dome. And so we get earthquakes here, volcanoes, we have the typhoons, and just wipes everything off. And
Hear
within
about
hours, they could have
mudslides?
their house back up. I'm not familiar with that, but maybe I just haven't been
In
here long
parts of
enough
the
to even
world,
know.
I always I hear about mudslides, but like how like just fascinating stuff when it comes to even building domes that you talk open with that, then building domes is fascinating. Like how do the domes, like you mentioned, when you're building them, just don't collapse, and how they don't collapse? Like how long do they last? Maybe like
Right,
what's the benefit
right.
building a dome versus a right angle
Mhm.
house?
Sure.
What's the
First of
benefit?
all, the material is a lot less, so you use less material. But the bamboo does rot, of course, and it's a intricate form of a hub. So you drill a
Mm-hmm.
hole in the hub and the strut comes through, and there's another ring inside the ring, and that's what you bind with the zip tie. So once you have that tied, it's locked in, and as you build your first level, it stays upward. And then you can add on the second layer, and once you have that all attached, it is together. And then all you got to do is just get a ladder and drop the 5 points up on top, and your dome is done. And if you had 2 people, it'd be about 2 hours, and 4 people, less than an hour. And then what do you cover it with? That's where you can cover it in mud. So the mud is encasing the rotting, possibly rotting bamboo. So you can avoid the rotting by putting it into the mud. And then you put a tarp on top or aluminum, metal, corrugated metal. There's lots of different ways you can do it. You can do palm fronds, so natural material. And that's the first farm I went to in Manila. Is we built a 8 meter, a 25-foot dome out there, and that's going to be his seed library. So he's got a very extensive farm there, and that's called Woofing, WWOOF. So when I came to the Philippines, I knew nobody, not a single person. But I knew when I landed in Manila that a 5-hour bus ride was going to take me to a farm, and I was going to be able to stay there basically as long as I wanted. I stayed there 6 weeks, and it was room and board provided. And then I exchanged my labor and teaching them how to build a dome house. And I go back and teach a workshop in a while, whenever I get back over in that direction. And then I had a farm invite me to come north of Manila, a farm south of Manila. And then I met a lady whose dad is in Taiwan. He wants me to come over to Taiwan. It's only $95 to fly over one way from here. So it's very inexpensive.
You mentioned before, like the size of the homes, like 25 foot domes, I think. But what's the biggest dome you built?
Oh, they have like, probably about the 25-foot one is probably the biggest one. I've done it with big, huge 4x4s, and I had like screwed in eyes, and that was a mess. It was so difficult, so heavy, and I thought that'd be a great idea, but it was a stupid idea. So I learned many, many times what not to do. So there are kits that have like a metal plate, but they can't afford a metal plate. This is all the cost is going to be zip tie, which are inexpensive. So they have the free bamboo, and you can use a bamboo trough to then start doing your vertical gardening. So that can be on the side of the wall, outside, even inside, and have your microgreens. So I'm trying to teach people that they have free housing, free food, and free medical care.
And I know, like it's a very popular thing even here to Met. Like I see. Well, one time I went over to Europe, and I was in Italy, and they have, and then in other parts they have clay homes, or and I guess it's I'm forgetting the exact material, but like those, like it looks like that, and then forgetting the train of thought here. The Where was I going with this? Going to Italy and seeing these clay.
There,
Did I see any bones?
dome houses
Domes?
there in Italy.
Well, when I actually think of that, I think of huts down in like Central America, and then they've been building these for centuries. I know
Mhm.
the tribes and the in the native indigenous peoples of each, they've been building these forever, and they have to be pretty reliable if they've been doing it for centuries. I know that.
Mhm.
So their domes, they're like what throws through my mind is huts, and it's. So was there a question in that? I thought
There's the mud houses.
w-
Oh, here's
where's
something
the mud
interesting.
houses? Okay.
Uh, Now, here's something interesting. Have you ever heard of a hypobaric chamber?
I heard the term phrase. I've heard of that. Yes.
You've heard of a hyperbaric chamber, and that's used by hospitals when someone's a burn victim or scuba
Hmm.
divers that come up too quick. They got to re-pressure down, and that's called a hyperbaric chamber. I'm actually in connection with a university here, and I'm agreed to fund the project, but I want their engineers to build me a hypobaric chamber.
Hmm.
Basically, it's a box that a massage chair will fit in because once you turn it on, you get a massage and you fall asleep. But the box is actually airtight, hooked up to a sewage pump. So
Hmm.
you don't pump air in, you turn the pump around and you suck air out. And in about 15 seconds, you're up at about 22,500 feet is what the body thinks it is. And then a valve opens up, fresh air rushes in, and then you're at sea level. And then in about 15 seconds, you're back up to 22,500 feet and then back down. All you feel is your ears popping. That's the only thing. So you're on the ground, you never get off the ground, but you go up to the mountains. And the purpose of that is to trick the body into hypoxia. Hypoxia is a lack of oxygen. So your body is going to become more efficient at oxygen use, which kills cancer. Then what happens? It produces more red blood cells, which gets you more healthy. It also produces stem cells. And so by just having a ride in this box with a window, you're not in a coffin. So you get a massage for half an hour, and then you lay there and you fall asleep usually, and you climb out, and you don't feel much different. And you do that for week after week. Now, the military uses these, and you can look it up, and they acclimate their soldiers when they were going to Afghanistan, which is 7,000 feet, and some places were 9,000 feet. So they would acclimate these soldiers and take about 2-3 weeks, but they would acclimate them to 22,500 feet. So they're kind of like the Sherpas. You've gotten these soldiers to immediately within 2-3 weeks be a Sherpa, and have that stamina to be able to handle the lack of oxygen. And they function much more efficiently. So that's a pain relief. What happens is when you're at 22,500 feet, 8 pounds of pressure is lifted off the body. So the nociceptors, that's what tells the body you're in pain, all of a sudden don't have any pressure. And they all of a sudden go, oh, what pain? And this could be pain relief for the very first time this person has ever experienced. And it's kind of like a cough. A cough syrup works to stop the cough, just to stop the body from being a spasm. And then it can just go, oh, I don't need to cough anymore. So it's that kind of a technique. So I am very excited about reaching out to several carpenters, which Abdal told me they're too busy. And I just went by a furniture store and they said, yeah, we'll take a look at it. So I'm putting a lot of effort out to find somebody who could build me one. And it'll be very inexpensive. And so it'd be something that would benefit anybody coming to the clinic to be pain relief and to get some real health and healing, but from a hypobaric point of view. And if you type in hypobaric, the Google will correct it to hyper, and you can't find the information. I had to go to ChatGPT, and that finally got me some paragraphs about a company that I personally knew that was producing this machine back in 2000, and they sold these to sports teams. Let me tell you a story. There was a young girl about 10, and her dad was a champion bicyclist. She wanted to follow his footsteps. So there was a race up in just outside of Los Angeles, up in the mountains called Big Bear. So she and her dad went up there to train because you want to practice being in that less air, less oxygen atmosphere. And she got sick. So she came back down, spent 2 weeks going to this chamber and spending about 30 minutes each day, 5 days a week. So 10 sessions. And she entered into the under 12 category. Now, the under 18 had a 2-minute head start. So they let the bigger, stronger people go first. And then the younger kids get to go second. She placed second in the under 18. She was that acclimated to that altitude. So it's an amazing device that helps heal for the sports enthusiast and for that and matter. So it really helps the athlete become better at it. And then they had press releases, and they had sold to hospitals. They had contracts with the government, and this was all published. And you can't find a word about it. It is gone off the internet, scrubbed clean.
And that's the hypobaric chamber, not hyperbaric, hypobaric chamber.
Right.
So here's as we get close to like wrapping up here, a couple things. One, you mentioned build libraries, you build homes to live in, and then when which came up the hypobaric chamber. So this you building like a hospital in a sense.
Yeah. See, if I go on that medical side, but my first stop in Manila was to the largest nursing school. So I talked to the administration, and they said, once you open up a clinic, then we can send nurses there. to then intern and get experience on what you're doing. So we have some very radical, very different ways of doing things. They're all non-invasive, so it doesn't hurt the person. So we might have to call it a wellness center to get around the medical. But that's what we do. We're focused on people with cancer and with the blood clots that's happening now with COVID vaccine and sudden death. So there are a lot of people, especially the YouTubers here. One guy, Mark Thornton, he died on December 19th of a heart attack and a stroke. And he was fine 2 days before that. And he actually had a video commenting about why are all these expats dying. And then he had a video before that, how proud he was about having so many vaccines and boosters. And so he had a heart attack and a stroke, and he left behind a 1-year-old baby and a very young Filipino. He was 71. But yeah, so there's a lot of things going on out there that we have the antidote to help people.
Weird. Thanks for like shedding light on like that, and then you had a little nice talk about building dome houses and
Yeah.
like remind me again like where'd you start with the dome houses because this is interesting. Like where'd you
So I
start?
started
When?
in Southern
Where
California.
and when?
Right, Southern California, 1983. And I was in the Riverside area, so I was building domes there. And then with the education, I was part of a charter school, so I was teaching every Friday, and so I would teach mathematics and geometry, sign language. So we had no sign language.
So 1983. That's a year before me. I was born in 1984.
Uh, People always
So
ask me
over
how old.
40 years.
Yeah. Well, people always ask me, how old are you? And so I always ask them, how old do you think I am? And I've had answers from 40 to 101. So I tell them I'm 23. And people think
101.
I'm 23. I know some kids were having fun with me on the pier. You're 101. Okay, I act that way. That's fine. But I'm 23 inside my head. So I act young,
Mm.
very full of energy. In 20 years from now, when I'm old
Shout
and
out to the
gray,
80s
that's when
creating
I'll retire.
change.
Yeah, that's when I'll retire in 20 years from now. The actuarial table say I have 32 more years left, so I'll take another day if I get it. But every January I count down, so it doesn't matter how long you've been on the planet; it's how much time you got left. And if you put down in the questionnaire with the insurance company that you see doctors, which you can do it several times, so you go back and change the answers. And I see doctors, it lowers me by 20 years. So I would only have 12 years left if I regularly saw doctors. But if you cut out the doctors, all of a sudden you got 32 years because they're the third leading cause of death. So you gotta be careful who you're dealing with, especially what they did during the COVID. They let people die, and it's just awful their behavior.
Tommy, from one Tommy to another Tommy. Tommy, how can
Yeah.
people find you? Social
Simply
media connection.
email and Tommy A. Kilpatrick. You'll find me on Facebook. So I offer a free consultation. I'll send you my free book. We can have a good time talking about stuff. So I'm more than open to talk to anybody. Just having some fun.
So is that the platform you like? Facebook? Anywhere else?
No, I don't really do any of those other
Okay.
things. I'm not really interested. And I'm only doing Facebook because that's what they use here in the Philippines. That's how you message people and connect. A little bit of WhatsApp, but I I rarely carry my phone. I don't get phone calls. I don't get texts. And so, yeah, if they want me, they can find me on the farm.
Yeah, thanks for popping in, creating change in the live chat there. Any questions that you have for him before I close this out? Wait a minute, I could bring some final questions here. What out of but everything you shared with today, like what is one takeaway that you think would be good for everyone to take in and hear?
It really is the fraud of the bank issued credit card debt. They say there's 1.3 trillion, but that's not true. This is what the bank thinks you should deposit back up to your free checking account. So if everybody did what I just asked you to do, send a letter, That's 1.3 trillion be gone. And then you say, oh, it's going to collapse
Oh
the
yeah.
credit system. No, it's not. What it is not going to be giving the banks 1/4 their profits from a scam. And so merchants can issue credit. And if you walk out with a product and you don't pay for it, then you owe them. And that's not a problem. That will still continue. But a scam to send you a credit card when really, in fact, it's a gift card and then reduce you to through coercion to send money to the bank, that's actually a loan. And so that goes into your checking account. So every subsequent purchase is with your own money. They don't have $1.3 trillion to put in people's checking accounts. So the only way they have that is because you are depositing money. And because you didn't deposit that much money that month, now you get charged interest. And people are paying and going under and committing suicide for a scam the bank is pulling on. So I think that's the most important takeaway.
It's that make me think different when you call you're making a payment, you're making a deposit. It just like,
and that is
yeah.
in the first link. And that is when you type it up, you'll find it from a legal website. And when you type it up, you're going to see opposite of what I just said, but they're not a legal website. Go with someone who knows the law, and that's where that's that link I sent you.
And I think you talked about it a little bit, but like just lets you just like plug the book and everything. You have the landing page. We'll have all these links in the show notes and everything. But like talk about the book
And you
when
can find it on Amazon. And it's
Amazon.
just type my name up. I type my name, it's sold worldwide. And what's fun is my courtroom scene. It's called Act One, Scene One. And it takes you through what happened to me with a federal judge. It's a compilation of what happened to me and my expert witness as a CPA. And it's very funny and full of jokes. And it's very entertaining, not very long, but you kind of go through the case and one step after the other. And all you have to do is have your CPA read through that and put themselves in that expert witness position. And he'll be saying the same thing as in my book. So they may not do it. You don't think your CPA is going to go all of a sudden and not pay their credit cards. My dad was extremely forthright and honest and would not reduce. And this is not being dishonest. It's just, it would rub them wrong. So don't expect your CPA to recommend it. But if you're facing bankruptcy and he tells you what I'm saying is correct, then that's up to you if you want to take a chance. And what's the drawback? You know? So they sue you. Well, you do a countersuit and then you bring them into court. You ask for the documents, you do the injunction, and they're in deep dope.
Yeah.
They can't do anything because it's what they've done is illegal and they don't want it known. So you may have to sign a non-disclosure. So that's why a lot of this is not being promoted out there or sold because they got you to be quiet. So I'm hanging out in the Philippines. We'll see how long I am alive. So
we brought the information, a lot of good stuff. It may not apply, as mentioned to you, it may not apply, but it could. There's a lot of fraud out there, definitely, and just do your research, and we'll put all these links that we have in the chat thread, comment there. I'll put all those up. How you can get in contact, how you could get the free. We'll have the landing page from Tommy and everything. And how I wrap this up here. I think of this as like a tech check because we're content creators, emerging creators in the this digital age of technology and everything. I like to ask one or two. Maybe I'll go with the inspired. How I first ended my question, which is multiple. I'll start out with the one question phrase here. Inspired by the School of Greatness by Lewis Howes. And I'm going to call this the three truths. Welcome. Thank you for popping in, Ziggy. Thank you. And then this is how Lewis ends his podcast on the School of Greatness. imagine like everything you do, your everything you wrote, your content is gone, and this is like your last day. Whenever that time is, this is your last day. You're on your bed with surrounding family, friends, and all your content's gone. You had to be gone for whatever reason, and someone came to you and gave you a piece of paper and a pen, pencil, and you were to write down three truths. What would those three truths be that you discovered in your life?
Well, funny that you mentioned something like that because 12 years ago, the wife of 28 years said, "Get out and take the dog with you." So I left all my wealth behind. I became homeless, which I still am, but by choice. I never was a drug addict. I was never dirty, but I took a vow of poverty for 10 years and I traveled across the United States on basically farms and other places. And I would volunteer for my services to sleep or to eat. And so I wanted to feel what it was like to be poor. I had never been poor before. I always had money. I was always brought up with money. So this was a humbling experience for 10 years to not have anything. And that's where I was off grid and I had no credit for it and no credit score. And the people, the generosity of people was amazing. And that's always in balance. So I would never take something. So when I first ended up with a family in Arizona, they actually had a uh, bakery in their home. And so I helped them for a year. I said, "I'll give you a year." So when I was leaving, I had some money from my business that I bought a motorhome. I gave them the motorhome. I reached into my pocket. I gave them all of my money because I believe you can't fill your pockets up when you got money in it. You got to go zero. And so when I got into a car, which I was going to follow this other guy to Michigan and drive his second car back to Michigan, they handed me an envelope of money. So I lived on that for about 6 months, and then I ended up on the East Coast in a hay house. These were a house and a barn made of hay bales that were covered in plaster. There was no running water, no electricity. It was an outhouse, and the only heat I had was from the stubs of candles donated by the Catholic Church. That's what kept me warm. So it was quite an experience. So I left him all my money, and I ended up in Maine on a farm, and I thought I was going to die there. I didn't think I was going to go off of it. I didn't even leave the farm about 12 times in 6 years. There was no need. Had 32 acres. I was in my element, and then shift happens. So make sure you pronounce the F. But here I am on the outside. I gave up all my ID. It took about 6 months to try to get ID back, and then took a while to get my passport. And I had to take a driver test, like like I did when I was 16. So yeah, it was quite an experience. So from that, I would say walk in the faith of God, and that's what I do. I I look for nothing. I ask for nothing. God provides everything for me. So I walk in faith is my first thing I would say. The second one is what I do is I talk to people as I'm walking by them. And I won't talk to everybody. I'm not going to bother people. But when they say, "Oh, hi, sir," I come back with my own, let's say, Gabi, which means good evening. And then I'll say, "Kamushika, how are you?" And then Dina ka mahalo, where are you going? Or Sam, what are you doing? Anagina himomo. And they look at me at first and they're not quite sure what I'm saying. And sometimes I got to say it a second time because they're expecting English to come out of my mouth and they're not expecting Hiligaymo. So, but I have intentionally studied this for 30 days and today's day 31. So I like to talk to people. So that's the most important. Second thing would be to open up communication, talk to people, and be open. And then love in Hebrew means I give. So I want to be around people who are loving, who are giving. I want around people who are growing food, raising animals, helping other people. Because if you're not giving, you're not loving. And that's that's what's happening in Los Angeles. And when I had people in Maine tell me that it would be okay if Trump was assassinated, I knew America was headed down the wrong path. So I wanted to get out. I read a book by Pearl Buck She was a famous author. She wrote the book in
Yeah.
1911. I'm reading a book, going through. Then she talks about walking down the street of Berlin with a friend of hers. And she's commenting, very strange. People are walking up to her friend and slapping her on the face. And she's going, what's going on? The anti-Semitism was long before Hitler. What we got going on in America is time to check out. So I'll stay over here where I'm nice and safe.
And so you hit the number 2. I think 2 and 3 kind of went
Number
fast
one
together.
would-
I did hit
Yeah. So one would be to I can't remember right now.
3. Faith.
To give a good feeling.
Walk in faith.
Yeah, walk in faith of God. Yep. And the number 2 is love. And love in Hebrew means I give. And the third one, I don't know. I would waste your time trying to think of something, but those the first 2 words I learned in Hiligaynon was, or a phrase, is sa Dios, go with God, and the other one was palanga, which means love. So that's all I'm focused on is God and love.
If I may, I think I heard the first one is give, walk in faith, and then love. Love and give can be kind of be combined into one, but give, faith, and love. I heard 3 myself in there. I don't test them my listening and everything. Anything else you have to say before I ask the final question? Anything else you have to add?
No, I enjoyed it very much. I appreciate what you're asking, and I love the conversations. Whatever I can do for you, let me know. It's a great time. I'm very happy.
Yeah, definitely. I'll let you know when this is all published, and just share it out when it gets published. Share it out, smash that like button, subscribe, do all those things that you see on the player, and that helps lift me up into those tech algorithms out there in the world. Like, smash, react, comment, share this message, because especially that first part, I do your research or anything, but man, there's a lot of information on the debt stuff today. And final question I have, being this is like a tech channel for me, I'm a techie geek nerd, audio, video person, everything, and I like to ask, what is your definition of innovation?
Innovation. I would say to let your creativity come out in an intuitive sense is not to feel it and not to think it. Don't feel it, don't think it, let it flow through you, and the innovation will be there. Because when you're trying to think it, you put too much pressure on, and your feelings can be anywhere and all over the place. So I would say I would focus on the intuitiveness. So ask God, ask the universe, and I got a situation here. I need an answer. I need to innovate something, whatever you say. I want the answer tomorrow morning. Go to sleep, and I'll bet you when you wake up, there's the answer popped in your head. You didn't think about it. You didn't feel it. It was there. And so now you know you're connected. So if things are going well for you, you know you're in alignment with God. So when you're under attack, you know you're doing something right because the devil's got you too. So stay focused on doing good things for people.
Well, from Sweet Tea, Tommy, the college nickname given to me in college, Sweet Tea. My name's Tommy. Talking with Tommy Kilpatrick today on killing your debt, removing your debt, building dome homes. Whether it's one of those things you want to learn, find them, connect with them over on Facebook. The link, I'll have the links in the show notes. Thank you for connecting me and getting connected through the pod match, and we'll keep connected. Thanks for this conversation.
I'll let you know.
We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. It's always a blast exploring the tech universe with you. But alas, it's time to wrap things up. If you've got burning tech questions or just want to say hello, remember you can reach out to us on our website, social media, or drop us an email. We love hearing from you. And if you found this episode as electrifying as we did, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback helps us keep the tech goodness flowing. Don't forget to share Tech Time with Sweet Tea with your fellow techies. The more, the merrier, right? As we sign off today, always remember that tech is a tool and it's here to serve you. So use it wisely, explore fearlessly, and keep it real in your tech adventures. Stay curious, stay connected, and keep rocking the digital world. Catch you on the next episode of Tech Time with Sweet Tea.